Don't try to adjust your set or your screen. These colors are absolutely normal, and they are the colors of the style of the 80s. Oh, hold on. I gotta get that. Hello? It was the 1980s. They said, keep the clothes, please. Nestled somewhere between the natural hippie world of the 70s and the 90s grunge lived a world where neon and oversized sweatshirts and conservatively covered dresses and tight-ass jeans ruled the world. TV and movies of our era are really a time capsule of the contemporary place and time they were set. You can always look back and know exactly when they were. Surprisingly, that even goes for our sci-fi TV shows too. But cartoons? Now that's a different story. So, in many of our cartoon worlds, they're timeless fantasies. You can't really pinpoint when they are or where they're supposed to be or what setting or what period. And for the ease of and cost of animation, most cartoon characters don't even change their clothes. Talking to you, Scooby-Doo. But there is once in a lifetime where a cartoon series depicts its contemporary time and place by showcasing the various fashions and styles of the day. First, as one did in the 80s, it was a way to sell more merchandise and accessories in an established toy line. And two, it was Jem. Let's see just how well the showrunners of the classic Jem and the Holograms depicted an over-the-top, hard-to-miss era of fashion and style. I'm going to show you real vintage 80s clothing style that was the inspiration for the fashion of Jem. Let's begin by going through all of the members of the band and stick around for the end for some bonus characters you won't want to miss. Just to remind everybody, Jem and the Holograms was a Saturday morning cartoon that became weekday and ran for 3 years, 85 to 87, with accompanying toy line. It had drama, it had glamour, it had cliffhangers, and of course it had music. But for now, let's get it on.
Okay, girls, past your bedtime.
Starlight House, Shaina speaking.
Just the wimp I was looking for.
What do you want, Roxy?
To save you the airfare to Venice, chump.
Shaina, the original drummer turned bass guitar for the band, this was her debut look, appearing on her doll and throughout the original pilot episodes. But how does it compare to its real-world counterpart? Here's a simple spaghetti strap dress of the time. Change it to purple. Does it look familiar? It should, since 80s diva icon Whitney Houston rocked this simple dress wanting to dance with somebody. Now, add some of the cinching found on some of the most elegant dresses of the era, and perhaps level it up with some sequins, and you've got Shaina's original dress, of course accented with a military jacket with epaulettes. Every jacket had to have epaulettes in the 80s, white or gray depending on the media. It looks like they were spot on with this one, and they show it off with a beautiful box art. Holy crap, that was the doll. I feel like something was lost in translation.
Only your father really knew how synergy works. If I do the wrong thing, I could erase everything. I mean, there would be no more synergy.
Now, as for the main guitar player, Aja, her muted colors weren't flashy, but one of the many words to describe 80s fashion, and there were many, pastels would be on the list. Just how era accurate is she? Well, 3/4 sleeves were the rage, and here we see some similar sweaters that could have made the cut with that crew neck and such, but they aren't stage ready. This shirt, however, complete with the drop sleeves near the armpits, looks more the part. Aja didn't do off the shoulder, although there were plenty of that style in the decade. Matched with a short faux leather skirt, I assume it's faux, the box art shows it may have had some fake snakeskin look or texture to it. And to take it up a notch, there is a notch, or a slit on the side, and the delicate chain belt, and she is all set. The art depicts Aja with a straight layered hair to drive her Asian descent home, but the show gave us the usual hairstyle that was big at the time. And I mean big. Aquanet set huge hair that rocked our world in the 1980s. Oh, oof, at least the doll got the hair right.
Trust us, we know what we're doing.
Yeah, kid, we're older, so you gotta do what we say, right? Wrong!
Kimber is the volatile keyboard player and Jem's younger sister, sort of. The fiery redhead has the flashiest stage look so far, starting with Ruffles. Was this 80s or complete make-believe? There you have it. Ruffles were full-on 80s. And just like the chips, you can never have just one. This one is connected to the undergarments, perfect to keep smooth lines while pounding the guitar on stage under the fitted white jacket. Here are two different kinds of jackets that show the 80s inspiration to Kimber's style. Easily matched with capri or short pants in blue, could be made of various materials, and finish off with hot red heels and you're ready for high-stakes adventure. The box art once again tempts us with a promise of what's inside, only to deliver this. Similar, yes, but there were still some limitations in 80s toy designs.
No young lady wants to be a drummer.
You know, I like Rhea, Mama, and I'll use it tomorrow when I audition.
That is my little Rhea.
Carmen, or Rhea as she went by on the band, replaced Shaina on drums later in the series and was the last member of the band to join the Holograms. It may surprise you, or not if you were from the era, but along with pastels, the 80s eventually brought florals, and lots of them. And it looks like Rhea was having a garden party here. This look was not uncommon, and the crowded prints worked with the rest of her ensemble. This vintage shirt is almost exact, and is accurate right down to the top button being fastened. Leggings were the rage. It is not a 21st century thing only, and from glam rock men to girls layering their school look, you see that this floral design was not imaginary. Now, as for the vest, it looks like she takes a lot of design elements from vests of the time. She's got the cut right, it looks the time, but it looks also that it might be made of satin, and takes some of this inspiration from various vests at the time to make a stage look. Ray finished it all off with a blue miniskirt, the shorter the better, but with a coordinating blue bow tie. It works, and it's not a work of fiction. If you don't believe me, just watch Pretty in Pink or something like that for your own inspiration. Finally, the yellow drop belt. It completes the picture. Any off-center drop belt would do, and there were countless to choose from. Her real-world art actually was the most similar to the animation model, and surprisingly, the doll was not the worst representation and delivered the most accurate look compared to the other characters. How are we doing? So far, we see that the real-world fashion styles of the day were truly represented on Jem.
Jericho Benton, I have come for you.
Before we review the Holograms lead, let's take a look at her true identity, Jericho Benton, older sister to Kimber and foster sister to Aja and Shaina. Jericho had a tough job after her parents died in a plane crash. She had to fight off Eric Raymond to keep rightful control of her record label, Starlight Music, and stay financially stable to take care of the entire Starlight home for foster girls. Jericho did all of this, not in shoulder-padded power suits worn by her contemporaries, but in a modified romper, as one does in the 80s, and there was no shortage of colorful looks to choose from in the time. These designs perfectly represent the original look of Jericho in the pilot episodes, when she took to slapping Eric Raymond on a couple of dramatic occasions. Eventually the show would depict Jericho in the romper design her doll sported, and we see it does come with real-world inspiration in this vintage look with even cap sleeves. Pairing it with their signature fringe belt and a matching beret, we see the changes reflect what was promised on the box for an executive holding two jobs and then moonlighting as a mysterious lead singer of the Holograms, all to make ends meet. Whew, soap opera city. Hey everybody, it's Victor with PopCon, a salute to all pop culture, but mostly the 80s. Would you please press that subscribe button? I'd also love a like, and how about a comment? Let me know what's your favorite. Let me know how you feel about this. I got plenty of new shows and lots of excitement to come. So until then, on with the show. So what about Jem, the lead singer and alter ego to Jericho? Did the producers model her iconic and familiar outfit known by millions from anything in the real world of the 80s? If you can call it real world. Look here. Similar styled wrap dresses of the time. Perhaps not exact, but you can imagine a truly outrageous, yeah, I said it, but only one. A truly outrageous star, okay, twice, would alter some of these inspirations. Looking at these modern takes on the dress goes to show you that Jem would have designed a look inspired by those true fashions of the time, but maybe modified for stage. This is not to say there weren't versions of the wrap dress all around, even on the nighttime dramas like Dynasty. To add some uniqueness, inspired by a fringe scarf, a modified fringe belt like Jericho's would tie the two identities together, and with the sparkling nylons and heels, Jem was simply complete. The show and the box art, although representative in varying degrees of realism, show off a powerful and striking character in what seems to be truly inspired by the world of 1985, complete with Lita Ford hair. Although not much of a rocker and more like a balladeer, Jem and the rest of the white girls on the show were all depicted with easy-to-animate big hair style that went so well with their over-the-top big looks. However, the doll just couldn't come close to either of the artist's representations and comes across more childlike and less edgy. Okay, I promised extras, and here is the first. Not a member of the band, but Rio Pacheco is not only the road manager for the Holograms, but the boyfriend of Jericho, and the love interest to Jem. Yes, the same person, in some soap opera scandal not found on any other Saturday morning cartoon. Sure, at first glance, that could be a leather bomber jacket, but it isn't. See the elastic material at the bottom and even in the collar? It has a little more members-only DNA in it, and it's not uncommon for the time. The khakis matched with brown loafers made Rio one of the most drab, monochromatic characters in the series. Thankfully, that shirt gave him a pop of color that was expected at the time. Looking at the serious box art that shows him as a hunk in more stripes and purples, the promise of this doll seemed to exceed the animation, until you see the huge head and purple bush of hair. You may notice that awesome graphic tee he's wearing. I'm sure animating that might have been a bitch, but it is iconic, and you can find it for yourself at Collection 82, my sister's site of graphic design and illustration of content just like this.
You cook up something extra special, Synergy?
Try this on.
Oh, outrageous!
The last review of 80s inspiration is rather unique. Synergy, the AI created by Jem's father and used to power all of the hologram schemes and adventures, can create 600 holograms at one time through satellite link-up with the Gem Star earrings worn by the titular character. How does one come up with this stuff? Synergy never changes clothes, and no additional fashions were created for the doll, but she was the most obvious 80s inspiration. Aerobics, jazzercise. A power source and a source of counseling, Synergy sported, get it, sported, a very unique but glaringly obvious aerobic sportswear. Inspired by the surge of health at the time, Synergy wore it as fashion, as did many of our 80s females. The fad was huge, and even celebrities joined in the trend. Jane Fonda may have been our most famous, but even our own Jessica Fletcher had her own VHS workout. And Synergy, the AI without eyes, joined in with the headband and all. The animated version was interesting, but not as ethereal as the box art or even the doll. However, as usual, the dolls of the 80s couldn't deliver the goods depicted on the package that drew kids in and led to parent-pestering purchases. The show choice of hollow zombie eyes would have fared better on the toy, in my opinion. Yeah, I know some of you are asking, what the hell is with this face paint? All of the holograms and even the Misfits had these colorful lines drawn on their face, but no bands of the 80s, no girl bands had any of that. Not the Bangles, not the Go-Go's, nobody. All I can think of is that the makers of Jem and the Holograms thought it would be cool to have a dynamic, more dynamic gimmick, so they took a cue from the Boys a Kiss. This face paint actually ended up fading away on both the dolls and the show itself. Well, what'd you think? That was pretty awesome. Like, I am from the 80s, so none of those clothes surprised me, and I do remember seeing most of them. But what was it like for you? What was your favorite? Who had the best look that was inspired by 80s fashions? Seeing those real vintage 80s fashions and the inspirations behind Jem and the Jem fashion scene in the show proves that they were using real world to direct them. And that was wise if you wanted to sell more accessories and merchandise for your toy line. You may only have one Kimber doll, but you need to have that cape ensemble too. So go out and get one. Which one was your favorite? Did any surprise you? Let me know in your comments. Perhaps you had a Jem doll and memories of their fashions. Speaking of other fashions, the Jem and the Holograms, or the whole Jem line, was filled with all kinds of fashions it was depicted in the show. And they would translate into the merchandise on the shelves. This fantastic artist, Sharon Nettles, she made the box art and she continued that work on those fashions. So it was pretty cool as a way to draw the consumer in, look at the picture, and get that beautiful artwork, hoping that the fashions and the accessories would match. Although Barbie had no constant media in front of our faces to help push or market her accessories, in a jealous rage, she still swept in and stomped a Jem out of the toy aisle. However, the gimmick, the music videos, the tape cassettes with each purchase were enough to make Jem and her friends not just a memory, but a much-loved legacy of the 80s toy store juggernaut. And you know what? We're going to do this again real soon, part 2, but I think it's going to be all about their rival band, the Misfits and the Stingers. So hey, if you notice, this shirt should look very familiar at this time, and you could get it on Collection 82, like I said. So check out the link in the description after the show, and hopefully you'll visit that site and see a lot of other graphic design and illustrations by yours truly. Help me get my thing on your thing, and we'll see you again. Until next time.